All right, cool. We're live. So I went to Florida last Sunday to Tuesday.
Right. How was it?
It was interesting. It was
Really?
really interesting. Yeah, because I was on John Elite's podcast with Michael Dowd. Do you know who those two guys are?
You're not. No.
All right, Michael Dowd they did a documentary about him called The 7-5.
Okay.
And The 7-5 was came out in 2014, and basically he was pretty much the most corrupt cop in New York City history. And
Really?
yeah, and the entire precinct was corrupt. And this was like back in the 80s into the early 90s. And he was getting paid for it's a precinct in East New York. And he was getting paid from some big time Dominican drug lords for a lot of money. And he had a whole crew of guys that would rob other drug lords. And
How old is he?
he's got to be in his early 60s by this point.
Still around?
Yeah, he's still around. Yeah, he did his time. And you got to watch the whole thing because they were coming down on his partner, and his partner kind of like gave him up, but at the same time, he was no angel, far from. But he was like, he kidnapped a guy for one of the drug lords. Yeah, it was really bad. Now, John,
he was legit.
yeah, no,
he was in deep.
It was no joke. Yeah, no joke. And then he did, I don't know how many years he did. And then John Elite was a John Gotti and John Gotti Jr. enforcer. And he also, had his own thing going on. Like, he was into, he had bookmaking business. He had, a lot of drugs, of course, loan sharking. Then he had some legitimate businesses. He had parking garages. He had nightclubs. And then when they cracked down on everybody, and he was around the life of since he was 15 years old. And then when they cracked down on everybody, he actually went on the run, and he was in Brazil. He was in South America, and they caught him in Brazil, and he wound up doing 2 years in Brazil. And then he was extradited to the United States. But throughout his life, he did about 18 years in jail, in and out, and now he's basically, they're striking while the iron's hot. Those topics are really, really hot on YouTube. So they have their own podcast. They have a big following.
20% of his life he's been in jail.
Yeah. But I think he killed 9 people.
Really?
Yeah, he stabbed and battered and beat down I don't know, plenty. And he told
what kind of show you run here?
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. And they have this whole, and then then they bring guys in like old mafia guys that just got out of jail, or they bring in ex-cops or detectives, or they bring in, they had some MMA fighters come in. And what happened was, I actually interviewed Larry Mazza, who was a made man in the Colombo family, and he was from Brooklyn, and he was from the same neighborhood I was from. So I had him on, and he took a liking to me because, I guess because I'm from the same neighborhood, and he's been on 3 times. And one of his friends was able to talk to John to see if he can get me on to help me out with my podcast.
Okay.
And that's what happened. And his name is Matt Granahan, who was a wrestler, collegiate wrestler, MMA fighter.
Right.
And he said, if you can make it down to Boca Raton for this date, John and Mike said, no problem.
No shit. Okay.
Yeah. So I said, okay. So I fucking booked the flight and went down there, man. And that was it. So it was fun because they're not interested in interviewing you. They want to hang out.
Yeah.
They want to hang out and shoot the shit and talk and laugh. And then we went to dinner afterwards, And
they have a big audience?
Yeah, I think they have 50 or 60,000 subscribers on their channel.
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
nice.
it's mid-sized for a YouTube channel,
right. People want to hear it.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I will say it's not going to come out till probably the end of this week or maybe the next week. But we'll see what happens.
All right.
Anyway, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Stress, living the life, grinding. But
How's I Prevail doing?
it's doing good. Knock on wood.
Oh, all right, good.
We had our best month in March. Best month, in the company for past 3 years it's been, and April was even bigger. So I reached beyond my expectations of what I thought I was going to do in April. But dude, it's it's a lot of work. It's a lot of it's constant. It's grinding and I got a couple new products I launched that are doing phenomenal out of the gate, which I thought they would, but everything's really starting to get its legs under it and starting to carry its own, and the brand is growing more horizontally.
Nice.
With all the SKUs.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
Now it's an issue of managing inventory and delays and stuff in the supply chain that's caused some delays. But I'm find a way to make it work. That's what you do.
Where's your biggest market? Is it like stores or is it gyms or is it?
It's mostly stores, brick and mortar stores. The mom and pop shops. I'm not in the big box. I'm not a niche guy.
Right.
I mean, stuff that this is the big boxes. Those are for your average watered down guys.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah,
taste something that it tastes great, and cool. I feel a little something, but the guys that take it a little more serious and are really trying to recover and repair and get the most out of what they're doing. They look for the stuff that costs a couple dollars more. That's not watered down, or it's not doesn't have the window dressing. The claims and the it's got all this and this study and this study. This is real shit. This is stuff that we've done through years, and it works.
I don't know if you saw the interview I did with Patrick from Ari's Nutrition, but that's exactly
I saw parts of it. I didn't see all of it.
That's exactly what he said. And I told him the 3 pre-workouts I was using before I started using yours.
Right.
And I said, what was it? C4, Redcon 1. Oh, I forgot which. And the Nitroflex. And I said, which one do you like? And he goes, none of them. And then he said exactly what you said. They put a shit ton of caffeine in it. They water it down. And he made it make sense. He goes, those are huge companies that have to sell in different countries. So the product has to be cheap. They put some beta alanine in it, so you think something's happening when you feel the tingle, and he says it's really not, So, actually, so he said exactly what you said. So, so it's going to do well. It's it's obviously climbing and doing better and better.
Yeah.
And go ahead, I'm sorry.
But he has a good point. There's stuff that kids want to feel, and the funny thing is, I've had feedback from certain products of mine and others that do better in my market space, which for some reason fascinates me because I don't know why they do better. People, and the reality is people would really rather take something that they feel is working,
right,
as opposed to something that really does work, but you don't feel it.
Right.
Everybody's into this immediate gratification type of feeling, or
exactly.
That's not where the real results lie. You don't feel your body burning fat. You don't. And the reality is, when it comes to fat burners, is people, they don't really give me something that's going to stop me from eating because I can't control my cravings. And look, that's the sad thing is that's the majority of people. We go to gyms. We know they're crowded on Mondays and Tuesdays.
Right.
They feel guilty for what they did over the weekend, and now they're making up for lost time, and they start, that overzealous feeling that lasts, Monday morning quarterbacks that last a couple days. Start to fade out, and by the end of the week, they're back to their old tricks. So. And those are the people, believe it or not, those are the people who spend the money in the market. The guys like us, the guys that, we're a smaller, denomination, in this market share. So you got to kind of make a product that fits everybody, even though I'm geared towards more serious athletes. It works for everybody, and once they try it, if you could tweak it in a way where it hits all that hits those markets where they feel it and it does work, then even better, you know?
Oh yeah, no doubt. But you're in the right world, so it should
Yeah.
be you should be fine. You know, between your promoting your shows and being in the hardcore scene, you're in the right world. But
Yeah.
I finally saw Batman.
Right?
It was decent. You
Oh,
know,
really? I'm shocked.
I didn't think it was great. I thought it was decent.
Okay.
I thought, of course, I thought Paul Dano was the best part of the movie, but I could have used more Paul Dano.
Right.
I'm always more of a fan of the villain.
Yeah.
I always
What didn't you like about it?
Well, let's see. What did I like about it? The story was decent, but it could have been a little bit more in depth. You know, like when I thought the Christian Bale Batmans were fantastic. And the reason why I thought they were fantastic is because it took 3 movies and like the actual character's background. And then you knew Bane's background. And when you know the character's background and you know who they are and so on and so forth, there's more of a connection with the audience to the character, as opposed to just throwing a villain on the scene. And you don't really know much about him. He's a psychopath, and that's about it.
They covered Riddler's background in this.
Yeah, absolutely. But not to the extent that I'm a little bit of a movie snob, like not to the extent of the Joaquin Phoenix Joker.
Well, that was dedicated just for him.
Right. You know what I mean? Not to that like that. And it's like, whoa, okay, now we really see where this psychopath comes from, that kind of thing. And even with the Bane character, and I wasn't crazy about Catwoman. I mean, I thought she was, it's like,
Really?
she's all right. I mean, listen, but I'm a movie snob. You know what I mean? And just because movies have dropped in standards doesn't mean that a halfway decent movie comes out and you're like, oh wow, that's great. I'm still comparing it to the 90s movies, the early 2000s movies, so on and so forth. And they just go did you see oh god, what's this? Did you see Tarantino's last movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
No, I didn't.
People loved it.
I heard mixed reviews on it.
Yeah, people loved it, but it was probably Tarantino's worst movie.
That was Brad Pitt and
and DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio, right?
Yeah, it was probably Tarantino's worst movie when you compare it to Pulp Fiction, when you compare it to Reservoir Dogs, when you compare it to
Kill Bill,
The Hateful Eight, Inglourious Bastards. But it's like a halfway decent movie, so people are like, "Wow, that was pretty good." But the movie world is falling apart.
Right.
Anyway, so I got to pick your brain since we're here. Since we're here, I got to pick your brain, and we're going to talk about some bodybuilding stuff. So I still dabble, in the PEDs.
Okay.
Nothing extravagant, test EQ. That's about it. But this time I decided, you know what? I'm going to try. I haven't done orals in God knows how long, right? It's like, I'm going to try Anadrol. I haven't used Anadrol in years.
I used to be one of my favorites.
Yeah. In the first 3 weeks, I lost my appetite. And then if I did try to eat something, I would get nauseous.
Okay.
And then Dave Palumbo on RX Muscle actually did a video on Anadrol and how it kills your appetite and can make you nauseous when you do force the food.
What did he say?
I don't know about I didn't go into the detail. I only watched like half of it, but he basically said that what's the point of taking a drug that's supposed to be for bulking and strength and size when you can't eat? Because you might as well just don't take it, because if it's limiting your ability to take food in, what's the point? Because it really kills my appetite. I mean, nothing. I was like, didn't even want to look at food,
Okay, I see it a little differently, but okay.
Go ahead.
So the reason it destroys your appetite is because the stress it has on increasing your red blood cells.
Okay.
Anadrol was created for people who have sickle cell anemia, deficiency in red blood cells.
Really? Okay.
So this increases your red blood cell count, which is the main reason why most people, their hematocrit level gets so high, their hemoglobin level, their iron count gets so high when they take this stuff. And it's dangerous. That's why you should monitor your blood levels and donate every 6 to 8 weeks or as much as you can to keep those levels down, because those are the real toxic effects of Anadrol. It is a heavy andro. So it does have higher toxicity levels. But one of the good things about Anadrol is that you don't need to eat a ton of calories while you're on it, and it will build muscle.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I put on more muscle using Anadrol, probably eating less than I did with other things. So there's that give or take.
Okay.
You want to abuse your body with food and your gastric system with food, overeating and over assimilation of nutrients, and putting your whole digestive tract through that. Or you take a substance like Anadrol where you can get around eating as much and still get really good results. And Anadrol neither, despite what you're saying, Dave said, could be an off-season or pre-contest drug. I used Anadrol all the way up to the shows for a lot of my prep, just because, if you diet properly, there's a lot of things you could take closer to a show that you wouldn't take pre-contest, and there's other things that make you retain a little more water that you would primarily use in the off season. For me, I used to stay away from all the pre-contest drugs in the off season because I would want my body to get used to them, because the effect you want that to have, you want it to be fresh when you're utilizing it pre-contest, so you respond the same. So my off-season drugs would be your decas and your higher blends of testosterone, EQs, D-balls, stuff like that.
Right.
Pre-contest, you want to rely primarily on your faster, faster testosterone, like your propionates, your faster esters that are in and out of your system faster. Your primobolins, your winstrals, your masterones. It's just stuff that's in and out of your system real fast. But Anadrol, it's a DHT, and you could experience water retention from it, but that's for guys that aren't really eating properly. If you're eating a good balanced diet, if you're dieting properly, you'll see minimal effects from Anadrol. But even if you do, you cut it 4 or 5 weeks before competition, and that should alleviate.
Comes out, right.
But with Anadrol, it's all real dose dependent. I never did more than one a day. And when it got to the point where it would destroy my appetite, I would take it at night. So the half-life of it's really over. So when you wake up in the morning, at least you have some of that appetite coming back so you can get your meals in all day. Or I would skip a day every now and again just to give my body a break from it. I wouldn't take it 7 days a week. I would do it 5 days a week, or sometimes do it every other day to just get that appetite back, or maybe do a half every other day, or you could gauge it. There's no real rules, but the effects you get from Anadrol are probably one of the better effects from taking anabolics.
Okay, I think that's what I'm gonna, because I stopped taking it, but I think I'm gonna.
Dude, it's rough. There's no doubt. And you might not need one a day. You might need one every other day, or 2 on, 1 off. Give your body a break. Or take it at night so it goes through your system. By the time you wake up in the morning, a lot of it's processed already, and you could actually reap the rewards of having your appetite back, so you could eat your normal diet.
Okay. The next question is it individual reaction? Like, can you take something and not have the same reaction? Because there are things that I've taken, and there are things that other people have taken, and they love it, and I get not many results from it, and then vice versa.
Yeah. So look, the human body is a very intricate thing. Now, you could have other things going on with your system that somebody doesn't, that when you take it, you have that correlation of things mixing in your metabolism and whatever else, what other factors you have going on in your body, one other person might not. They might respond better. You know, I always use this as an example. You know, I don't like onions. I don't like onions. Never liked them. Right?
Okay.
Doesn't mean they're bad for you, but they don't work well. They don't respond well in my body. They're acidic. I get like acid reflux. I don't even like the taste. It's too acidic for me. Like can't eat. I know when I'm eating them. I got to spit them out. I just don't like them. Everybody's different. You know, everything could look great on paper, but once it enters your system, all these clinical studies and these trials, and this was looked at this way, it's completely different for every individual.
Okay.
It depends also what you're getting. Some people aren't getting the same things from the same source or the same quality as somebody else. They might be using it with other factors, other growth factors, or other types of enhancements that might trigger a different response from them that you might see differently.
Okay, because I've always, if I ever did orals, and I haven't done orals in, God knows, this is the first time in years. If I ever did orals back in, especially when I was competing, I always got good results from D-balls and Turinabol.
So D-ball and Turinabol, they're very similar. They both bond to testosterone receptor site. They're both primarily by definition off-season drugs because you do get slight water retention from them more than most of your other anabolics or androgenics or your DHTs. But they hit the same receptor site.
Okay.
They both bond to your same testosterone receptor site. So if you're taking testosterone, D-ball, and Turinabol in the same cycle, you have 3 different compounds that are all rushing to the same receptor site. So they're pretty much canceling each other out.
I gotcha.
EQ
I would never do. I would do one. When I was competing, I would usually do 2 injectables and 1 oral, and that was pretty much it, and maybe some growth after that. But that was about it. Now it's like I'm lucky. I'm lucky I get testosterone in. But I don't know. I had gotten a friend of mine said, "Oh, I got really good Anadrol," and I was like, "All right, I'll pick it up. I'll give it a shot." And I was just like, wow, after like 3 weeks, I mean, like killing my appetite.
So it took 3 weeks for it to kill your appetite?
It started killing my appetite after like the first 2 weeks. And then by the 3rd week, it was like I had no appetite. And even when I was eating, I would feel nauseous. Now, that being said, I was taking 2 a day.
Oh, shit.
Okay, yeah.
That's more, and I've done it all, dude. That's more than I've ever done with Anadrol.
Yeah. Really? All right.
I never needed more than 1 a day. There's no need for it.
All right, so maybe I was just overdoing it.
Yeah, 1 a day, you might get some appetite back. But dude, after 2 weeks, where you start to see that system where you're building up that toxicity or saturation effect, then you cut it back a little bit. Go every other day. You don't need to dose it heavy. It's good. I like dosing heavy out of the gate, just to jack your levels up.
Okay.
And then you could kind of cut back and then ride it out, let it work for you, then bang it back up again. You want to have peaks and valleys in your hormone levels. When something is just stagnant, things don't move. Homeostasis is great, but when you're trying to build protein, when you're trying to build tissue and create positive protein synthesis, it's sometimes nice to have those peaks and valleys because your body is always surging. It's always getting a rush.
Okay. All right. Cool. Okay. Dosages. As far as dosages go, what do you recommend for somebody who wants to compete and is on his off season, and somebody who basically just wants to put some muscle on and get in shape and so on and so forth? Because those seem to be the 2 people in the gym.
Right. It's all relevant based upon body weight, metabolism, and more importantly than body weight, body composition.
Okay.
170-pound guy certainly, shouldn't be doing the dosage of a 250-pound guy with the same amount of lean tissue, right?
Okay.
So, but dude, 500 milligrams of testosterone for your average guy is plenty.
Okay.
1,000 mgs for your bigger guys. And look, of course I've gone over that, but you don't need much more. I know guys that are dosing hot. I know guys that are doing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cc's of Trenbolone a week. I mean, that's overdoing it.
Yeah.
You gotta, you're never going to learn your body when you throw everything at it, right?
I got you. Right. Okay.
So if you pick a couple things and you find a baseline, like I'm going to do, let's say 750 milligrams of testosterone a week. I'm going to do an anadrol, 2 on, 1 off, 2 days on, 1 day off, or let's just say 1 a day. And I'm going to do, DECA, 19 nortestosterone binding steroid, which would be your DECAs, your Trenbolones, or your NPPs, Parabol, and 1 cc 3 times a week. That's really all you need.
Okay.
If you're not responding to that, after a certain amount of time, you can increase it. But I see these guys going out of the gate, fucking redlining it, it's got to be a risk versus reward also. What's the reason for doing this? And your higher level guys, well, I don't respond to it anymore. I've been doing this for so long. Oh, okay, it's a shitty argument, but you should probably give yourself some off time. But there's no need to really do the amount of dosages. You have to realize also is steroids work better when your testosterone, when your steroid receptor sites are open. The only way they're going to become open and willing to absorb the free-flowing testosterone and the anabolics that are traveling through your bloodstream is when they're broken down and craving it. And that's from hard training. That's why, like years ago, and you hear this argument all the time, we used to work our asses off and we didn't need as much because we were working off.
I got you. Okay.
So when you're taking all this stuff and you're not breaking your cells down the way you should, it's just constantly running through your system, and it's not even bonding to anything. It's pretty much just stagnant.
Right.
It causes toxicity effects, could cause liver damage, could cause, enlarged heart, could cause all those things that we hear about. This is what's causing them, is these high doses of things that are running through your system that could cause kidney, liver, any type of organ damage, because it's not being synthesized. It's not being utilized by the steroid receptor sites in your body. And the only way to do that is you have to trigger them. You have to activate them. And that's from overstimulus. So if you're not even training hard, the fuck you doing?
I agree. Yeah, what's the point?
So all that stuff works better when you're under stress. When you're under stress from tension, training, even overtraining. I mean, overtraining, people take anabolics because their bodies are overworked and trained. It's to spare protein breakdown and to create positive nitrogen balance, to keep you in a good protein synthesis, keep your body anabolic. That's why we have these things. Primobolan was actually created for people who were in a calorie deficit type of diet, people who didn't eat enough so their body wouldn't waste away. That's why these things were created. Now people are using them for a result that it's not really engineered for.
I see what you're saying. Okay. All right. I get this a lot too. When I speak to the regular guys in the gym, not the guys who compete. I want to do something, but I just want to do orals. I don't want to inject myself, and I want to do Anavar.
And we'll do what?
Anavar. That's the first thing they say. I just know I want to use Anavar.
Okay.
And my response is usually, if somebody's coming to talk to me or whatever, I usually say, "Dude, you don't have to do anything. Like you to do 25 milligrams of Anavar a day. What's the point?" That's my answer to them. But I want to get. I was like, yeah, but it sounds like you're a little bit scared to actually put the time and effort into doing the research and seeing really what would work, and you just want to stay safe. So just don't even bother doing anything. Like, that's usually what I tell them. I was like, don't you don't have to go balls to the wall. You could stay natural and use your supplements and hit the gym and so on and so forth. What's your opinion?
So look, there's guys, you're not going to stop them. There's guys that they want results, and just like we were talking about, they don't want to do the hard work.
Right.
No, you reach a point. It's all, again, it's all risk reward. What are you really looking to do? If I want to get a little bigger, I just want to put some size on, I want to take some Anavar. How are you going to argue with somebody wanting to take Anavar? It's one of the safest anabolic agents that was made. Men and women can take it. It doesn't bond to any of the male, doesn't bond to any of the steroid receptor sites. It's not actually a male hormone. It's just an anabolic agent.
Mm-hmm.
But again, overdosed could be toxic and could cause other problems also. Just because people think it's safe doesn't mean if it's not abused, there can't be toxicity results from it, side effects from it, and stuff like that. However, you can't. They want to avoid the injectables because they're afraid to take an injection. However, injectables are actually safer when it comes to protecting your liver and other organs because it bypasses the liver, goes straight into the bloodstream, and it just filters out once. It doesn't go through the bloodstream going in and out. It only filters out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a one-step process through the liver as opposed to a two, which is from an oral consumption. When you ingest an oral, goes through your system, gets broken down into the liver, then passed through the bloodstream. Mm-hmm. So it hits your liver once, and then your liver reprocesses and filters it out on the way out. So it's almost like it goes through a two-step process going through your system when it's ingested as opposed to being injected. With that being said, I get it. People are afraid to take injections. I get it. I remember the first time I ever took an injection.
Right.
You're fucking loaded up and you're getting that willpower to do it. And, so I get it, but in terms of I want to do something, what are you going to do? You can't stop them.
Yeah.
Give the best advice possible. But taking something look, I know there's pro hormones on the market that some of these stores sell that are more toxic than an Anavar or something like that.
Right.
So with that being said, look, if you don't need to do it, you don't do it. But if somebody's tempted and they want to do it, Anavar is the safest route to go.
Mm-hmm.
Or it depends on their age and what they're really looking to accomplish. Hormone replacement, is it's like buying marijuana now. It's
no budget. Right.
You could pretty much do it anywhere, and I think they even prescribe Anavar, Deca, and testosterone in certain states.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you call it, you can get it. Just again, low dosages. You don't need to overload on stuff, and like the first time you get a headache, you don't take a bottle of aspirin.
Right.
You take one or two, and if it gets worse, if your body mass is higher, you can get away with taking 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
You play it that way.
Now, sorry.
That's it.
Now, what about taking? Because normally, what I suggest is to take 2 things. Because it seems to me that when you take 2 different anabolics, you get a better result. So if somebody says to me, I only want to do orals, I say, well, do like Anavar and Winstrol orals, do 1 and 1 a day. Or if somebody wants to do an injection, I say, don't do just testosterone, do testosterone with EQ, or do testosterone with DEC or Masteron or something like that. And that seems to be the common belief that 2 things, for some reason, gives you better results than just that one. But a tremendous amount better. What's your opinion on that?
Well, you're right. However, it depends what the 2 compounds are.
Okay.
So you suggested testosterone and equipoise, which both of them bond to the same steroid receptor site. So that's not a portfolio you'd put together to recommend to somebody who wants to reap the rewards of doing 2 anabolic agents.
Okay.
A testosterone and a DECA, that's 2 different receptor sites. So it's like if you want to gain 10 pounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to gain 10 pounds and you're only training a third of your body, you could gain the 10 pounds, but it's going to take you X amount of time.
I got you. Okay.
If you want to gain 10 pounds and now you're training your full body, well, you could probably do that in a much less time because now you're training your whole body as opposed to just doing a third of your body. Okay. So you have 3 steroid receptor sites in your body that these compounds bond to. You have your testosterone receptor site, you have your 19-nortestosterone receptor site and a DHT receptor site.
Okay.
So if you take a compound that breaks down and bonds to every one of these three receptor sites, you're going to get the best results. And that's when you put together a program. You want to find an agent that's going to break down and get bonded to one of the three steroid receptor sites.
Okay. All right. So here's another question, because these are all basically things that I've hear in the gym or guys tell me or so on and so forth. And a lot of times I just throw it away. And then sometimes it is relevant. How toxic is Trenbolone? Because that seems to be the go-to drug these days. Trenbolone, and another one that's extremely popular now is NPP.
So NPP is it's a fast-acting form of adrenaline decanate, which is DECA.
Okay. It's
actually one of the safer drugs to use.
Okay.
Because it's in an NPP version, it's a propionated version. It's faster acting. It could go through your system faster, which means it could have slightly higher toxicity levels than your regular adrenaline decanate, which is your DECA. Mm-hmm. But those are actually the safer ones to use. Trenbolone, that's more toxic. That's a methylated form of an androgenic steroid. Mm. And what that means is that it has to go through a heavy processing protocol, pretty much through your liver. And with that being methylated, it causes more toxicity levels through your system. So the problem with Trenbolone is that it's overused. Like we were saying before, there's guys that are doing a cc every day of it. So when you're doing anything in those amounts, there's going to be much higher risk than need be, and the toxicity levels are going to accumulate, especially when it takes a little bit of time for it to go through your liver. For the first flush of it's going through, you're hitting it with another one, then another one, then another one. But stuff like that, stuff like your anadrols, your Trenbolones, your higher androgenic steroids, they are a little more toxic through your system. But if you do them in small amounts, but look, you have to remember, none of this shit is great for you.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like anabolics were designed for a purpose, but everything has a side effect. You can take an aspirin, and there's going to be side effect. You ever read the side effects of an aspirin bottle? If you didn't know what you were reading, and if you didn't know what you were taking, and you just read the side effects from an aspirin or a Tylenol or Motrin, ibuprofen, what the fuck am I putting in my body?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's scary, but people have to, like, when they do these clinical studies for these drugs, any effect, it's like the VAERS report, with the CDC. If you get into a car accident while you're taking this, you have to list that as a side effect. I crashed a car. If you have a headache while you're taking a testosterone or DECA, that you have to list that as a side effect. We don't know if everybody's going to get it from it, but if one person had it during these clinical studies, we have to list it, right? But again, you're looking for a cause and effect. So if you're looking for a desired effect, there's going to be side effects to that. So as long as you know that, like, you don't go and get blood work done when you're in the middle of a heavy
right,
because your levels are going to be off. They're going to scare the shit out of you, and you're going to think there's something wrong with you, which is going to cause you to make decisions that you normally wouldn't make under normal circumstances. So if look, this is what this is going to do to me. I'm aware of this. This is the risk I'm going to take. You do this for its desired effect, and then you stop and you allow your body to clean out and go back to normal. Like the amount of shit I've done. And I have some of the cleanest blood work.
Right.
That I've seen. You know what I mean?
Because it's night and day when you are clean and when you're off and when you're on, and then you take and you do blood work. It's night and day.
But again, also a lot of these things, they're hormone. It's not like overdosing, on an opiate.
Right.
Overdosing on an amphetamine. It's not like overdose. I don't really know of any circumstances where people have overdosed on hormones. And even if they do, you stop doing them, you allow it to flush out of your system, and the effects you had during are pretty much, unless it's long, and I mean long-term abuse, you're going to be okay. The only bad effect I see nowadays is with all these guys dying, guys and girls dying. And I know we've had this discussion before, and you have to take into consideration now, there's a new virus, going around, whether we hear about it every day in the news or not. This virus is still relevant. And this virus has thickening, blood clotting side effects to it. So the side effects you would normally get while you're taking anabolics that might be, you could wish away or turn a blind eye to, you can't turn that same blind eye to it nowadays because of this virus that's relevant nowadays. You have to take that into consideration. So if you are going to take these risks, make sure your blood volume is low. Make sure your hematocrit level is low. Make sure your hemoglobin level is low. Make sure your system is clean. So if you have to do these things or you're willing to do these things, you're balancing things out and you're lowering the risk of these potentially harmful side effects that could happen down the road.
Okay. Let's see. Another question.
I'll give you an example. They talk about, I see it in these forums, I see it on these posts. Oh, the IFBB should do something about this, and guys are dying. What the fuck is the IFBB going to do? What can they really do? You know what I mean? Like, it's no different than any other sport. These guys want it. What are you going to make the shows now? We have natural shows,
right? And nobody watches
them. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody reads magazines. Nobody wants to see them because they're not enticing. You know what I mean?
It's the truth.
People want to see this stuff. So the only thing the IFBB could really do, and this is taking a shot. Hey, you know what? Before each competition, we're going to run your blood panels. If your hematocrit level is too high, your hemoglobin level is too high, your red blood cell count's too high, you're not allowed to compete.
Right.
That's really all they can do.
Yeah.
And that's with, you can't blame them for shit these guys do.
No, nobody's putting a gun to anybody's head.
They're rewarding success in every sport.
Right.
It happens in every sport. It's more obvious in ours because you can look at it.
Right.
You could see it. It's visual as opposed to a guy who's running an extra eighth of a second faster because he's using some other performance enhancer. You can't really see that until the end result is done. These guys are walking around. You could see it because of the visualization. It's visual. So it looks more prevalent in our sport when it's really not.
Let me give you a possible issue that might be also adding to this problem. Guys are staying in bodybuilding a hell of a lot longer than they used to, and they're still competing in their 40s, some until in their 50s. And some of these guys are carrying around massive amounts of muscle that they're not supposed to be for, 20, maybe 25 years. I did a interview with Mila Ash, sweetheart of a person, by the way. And I said, Lee Haney retired at 31. He was done, and now you have guys, that are pushing it into their 40s.
Was he 31?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was 31 when he retired. He was not. Yeah, he won. I'm pretty sure he was very, very young.
I thought his first Olympia he was 26.
Let me see. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. And I can't be that far off. But
his mid-30s.
Lee Haney. Let's see. Lee Haney. There we go. Okay. Oh, he's pretty tall. He was 5'11". I didn't even know he was that tall.
Yeah.
All right, he's 62 now. He was 255 on stage. Bodybuilding titles. Yeah, he retired in 91, right after he won his first Olympia. Come on, give me an age. I can't even fucking see it. Went from 84 to 91. It's not giving me an age. Let's see. 59 to 1959 to 91. Let's see.
So you might be right. Because if he's, how old is he now?
Yeah, it was 32 when he retired.
32, yeah.
Yeah. But now you got guys that are going into their 40s and some even into their 50s. Like a Cedric was a massive human being. I'm not saying that, that's the part. I'm just saying this is impossible. And he was in his 40s and he still had a lot of muscle on him. And it's just a lot of stress on your body. If you're supposed to be 200 pounds and your heart, liver, lungs are made for a 200-pound person, but now you have 100 pounds of muscle on you. It's got to be a lot of stress for 20, 25 years.
Right.
What do you think?
So there's two different ways to look at this, right? So you have drugs in the sport, okay? And through drugs in the sport and utilizing them properly, it's given people more longevity to last as long as they have in the sport as opposed to when they did years ago, okay? You also have different generations of people now. So I see more guys now competing in their older ages. Like I just added a master's class to my Muscle Beach show in July because I was getting nonstop requests for people who want to do it over 55. Now, again, these are novice and amateur, beginning bodybuilders who are doing it later in life, as opposed to somebody like myself or these other guys that have been doing it since their teenage years, early 20s, and continuing to do it into their 40s, which I do agree. I wanted to retire at 40. That was always my goal when I got into competition, especially after I turned pro and I was competing at the Olympia level. I'm like, I'm going to retire at 40. I retired at 41, whatever. But, your body kind of starts to go downhill after a certain point. And you could fight that. You could fight, father time, or, you could fight time by doing this. However, that's when the point you made comes into effect, where now you're doing more long-term damage from being on these substances for longer amounts of time when your system is younger and healthier and can flush things out and recover properly. Everything has a lifespan on it. Your heart, your kidney, your heart is going to have, nobody knows, but your heart is only going to beat X amount of times before you die. Right. Nobody knows what that number is, right?
Right.
So if you're constantly putting more stress on that beating heart, it's gonna kind of offset the longevity effects that you would hope it would, as opposed to a heart that's not under those constant stresses or constant pressures, or the extra weight, or carrying the extra muscle, or the enhanced blood, or the volumized blood, the thickening of the blood. So taking all those things into effect, it's like, I agree on one side and I kind of see the point on the other side too, where, guys can last longer, but when you have a guy who's been competing, I'm not throwing names out there, for all these years.
Right.
It's no different than a boxer, no different than a boxer that, dude, how many times are you going to get hit in the head? How many times are you going to take these beatings? You might be able to recover and not develop early stages of dementia, in your 30s, but the longer you do this, the harder it's going to be to fight it off.
Right.
But now you're dealing with, I think it turns into more of psychological issues, as opposed to, there's some people, they don't feel complete without it. They're known as being big. They're known as having muscle. They're known as, as a bodybuilder. And when that goes away, if you don't prepare yourself in life and have other things that could make you feel, important or make you feel relevant. You know what I mean? Right. And I get it. We talked about it before. I dealt with it when I retired. Like, you're used to being at a certain level of competition, then it all just comes to an end. It's like that with any other sport with these athletes, the football players and other athletes that They go through depression. They go through bad symptoms. When they retire, it's what do you do with your life now? What gives you value? What makes you feel significant?
Right.
Makes you feel like you're accepted by others. If you're not this person you used to be anymore. So that's a balancing act. If you're gonna live this life, you got to know how to get out of it. It's like being in the drug game or either a gangster game, dude. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, it's true.
It's only gonna last so long, or it's gonna be your downfall. Live by the sword, die by the sword. So
right.
If you have to have an end game. So if you're getting into this, the best advice I could give is you have to have an end game on how to get out. Because nobody likes to plan, an exit strategy. But you're either going to plan one or it's going to be planned for you, one or the other. And you're better off having a plan than having something taken from you prematurely.
Yeah, and some guys actually do better when they retire and going to another aspect. A lot of bodybuilders, when they go into training, they're decent bodybuilders, but they're fantastic trainers and coaches.
Yeah.
The George Farahs and the Dennis the Menace and Chris Cito. You go down the list of guys who become better coaches and trainers than actual competitors.
Yeah.
And then there are guys like yourself who decide I'm going to stay in the world but have this tremendous supplement business. And I mean, I am. You got to be productive as a man. The day that you're not productive is the day that you are, the life is done. It's very difficult for me to contemplate retirement just from my regular job. I talk about it with my wife all the time. And I go, what am I? I can't just retire. I can't just get up in the morning and have nothing to do. I don't care if I'm 60, 70. I mean, put a bullet in my head. I have to be productive because there's no way, and we talk about it all the time. Well, what do you plan on doing? And I was like, I don't care if I open a gym and just be able to go to the gym and manage the gym and so on and so forth. At least I'll be around things that I love and I'll be able to be productive. But I can't just retire. And I have friends at work that just retire. And I say, I keep in touch with them. How you doing? All right. Well, what are you doing with yourself? Nothing. I'm like, nothing.
So I saw an interesting quote today, ironically.
Yeah.
And there was a guy talking on a video, and he had this quote saying, "The people that enjoy the walk are going to get much more out of it than people that enjoy the destination from the walk."
Right.
With me, I love the fight.
Yeah.
I love the competition. I love the being goal-oriented. So when it comes to, I'm never going to retire. I'm always going to have something. If it's not competing with business. And look, and if you can accomplish, what some of these guys, with myself, what some of these guys have done in professional sports, bodybuilding, other sports, if you can get to that level.
Mm-hmm.
You have the dedication and self-discipline to get to that level. Now it's just applying in maybe a little less of a narcissistic way or less of a way that has less vanity to it, from a body composition point of view or a visual point of view.
Yeah.
But if you could put that work ethic and that drive into something, you could be successful in whatever you do. You know. And that's what I do with this. I was competing in bodybuilding and I reached my point, and now you feel empty not competing anymore. But now I find myself competing every day for doing this and trying to hit my goals as the business and grow the company and goals for my daughters with their sports and goals for the family and where I want the family to be in X amount of time and where I want to be financially in X amount of time.
Sure. Right.
And
if you make a name for yourself, you could, you become your own brand too. And it becomes a little bit easier to market yourself and market whatever business aspect you go into and so on and so forth, which is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to kind of make a brand and make myself a name with this podcast. This way, when I go into other aspects of life, other business opportunities. At least I have my name and my brand. I mean, listen, Hostile Supplements wouldn't be what it was if Fuad Abiad wasn't a champion bodybuilder. Right. You know, and the same thing with yourself. You know, I Prevail Subs wouldn't be what it was if you weren't Jason Arntz. Same thing with Species, and you go down the list. But at this stage of the game, if I wanted to start a supplement company, it would be worthless. Nobody knows who I am. You know, it's just so. You're right. The fight and the drive and the getting up every morning, it gives you purpose. And I don't think I'll ever stop doing this YouTube channel because there's always that hope. There's always that like, okay, it's almost there. It's almost there. I'm chipping away at it, chipping away at it, chipping away at it, chipping away at it. And I'm like, and I hear you kind of have to put the blinders on because I hear, oh, there's so many YouTube channels, there's so many podcasts, so many this, so many that, and I'm sure you hear it too, oh, there's so many supplement lines, there's so many, but
however,
yeah,
there's only one of us.
Right. Exactly.
There's a million these, there's a million that's.
Right.
There's only one of me.
Yeah.
There's only one of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they don't have what you have. They don't have what I have. I don't have what they have. And all we can do is offer something a little different, maybe a little better, right?
Yeah.
And something that people want to believe in or be a part of it. And that's really all it takes. And people respond well to success. People respond well to consistency. So the more you do this, and there's days, it's tough getting up, especially when you get beat up. When you look at your views and it was less this time. You know what I mean?
Like, it drives me crazy.
Yeah, dude, I go really through does. It. We all, my numbers were down today or this week. Or, I get it. Dude. We all go through that. However, you keep fucking fighting, dude. You keep driving and you keep getting your point across. And the more you're persistent, the more you're consistent, the more people believe, and the more people gives them opportunity. Hey, let me try this. Let me give this guy a listen. Right. Let me see what he has to say. Maybe there's something I can learn from this.
Yeah.
And then it takes a while, dude. It takes, just like you're not going to build a championship body, overnight. It takes years of consistent training. Thank you. Consistent training and the dedication, the hard work. And that applies to what you're doing. It applies to me growing the business, but when you give a good product, when you give a good product, people come back.
100%. Absolutely. It's going to, the YouTube channel isn't blowing up overnight because it's kind of by design. It sucks that it's slowly growing, but it's kind of by design because I'm not going to be, I have this idea of what I want to be.
Right.
And I don't want to be the classless talking shit, going after other YouTubers, dramatic.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I don't want to be that.
I don't blame you.
I don't want to be that. And I keep, and at the beginning, when I first started this, I was just talking into the camera. I wasn't having guests. And then I was like, and I had to kind of like come to terms with myself and say, look, I'm not a well-known person. Nobody's just going to watch me.
Right.
And that's when I was like, but if I turn this into a YouTube channel, then I take the emphasis off. If I turn this into an interview channel, then I take the emphasis off me and the emphasis is now on the guests.
Right.
And if I'm able to make it more a variety of guests and not just concentrate on bodybuilders, then I'll get a variety of audience members.
Right.
And so that was my whole plan. And
so I'll give you an example. Look at Howard Stern.
Right.
You a Howard Stern fan?
Yeah. Oh, I was, but when he was on regular radio, yeah.
Okay, so I've listened to Howard for years. I haven't listened to him as much, but dude, he was hated.
Yeah.
I always liked him. I never hated him. I didn't really think he was the best entertainer.
No.
In the beginning, he was just wacky and different and this and that. However, when he gave an interview, it set him apart, from other interviewers. It was just different. And now you used to watch the show for the spicy shit, right?
Yeah.
Now you watch the show because he can interview somebody from 20, 30 years ago that you haven't heard their name.
Right.
And he just brings something out in them that makes everybody want to listen.
Right.
And it makes the guest more intriguing, you know? And just like you said, you don't want to be like everybody else and you don't want to be the guys bashing. And the same thing for me and what I'm doing. You know, there's all these companies that have all this money behind them, like your Redcons, you're this, you're that, you know, the money to do into marketing, the flip. And the thing is, you know, after a while, people start to realize, you know, yeah, I love the marketing and I love the flash, but the product really isn't that great, you know? Right. But these guys, they want to become an overnight success, you know, the flash in the pans. So they have all this money backing them up. And they last a little amount of time, you know, and until the next flash in the pan comes out and kind of takes their market share. However, with guys like you or I, you know, who are doing it differently, we're growing it more organically. You know, I developed a company, you know, primarily in the States that I used to service with the two other companies I worked for. I ran 11 states. So I had relationships getting into these stores. I was like, you know what, yeah, of course I'd like to be doing all these numbers and selling to everybody. However, when you sell to everybody and you fuck up, right? And you're going to fuck up.
Right.
Not intentionally, but it's a learning game, you know, like you learn as you grow. So if I screw up in this amount of a market share, chances are I could recover from that, right?
Right.
Fix it, and you're going to lose some customers, but then you kind of gain the respect back of customers. Hey, he did it better. He made good on this. He did this. He did that. Now you take that better product and you grow a little more. And then when you hit the next bump in the road, you do the same thing until you really grow organically, as opposed to when you're huge everywhere and you have that first hiccup, you're not going to recover. It's not going to be as easy to recover.
Yeah, no. Right,
it's going to cost you X amount of dollars in product and time and effort and everything else, as opposed to a smaller market share where you can learn from. There's probably interviews and things you did the first couple weeks, the first couple months you've been doing that you were like, I'll never fucking do that again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you turn people off.
Yeah.
You know, the first couple weeks, that guy's an idiot, or I'm not going to watch him, or who knows, whatever.
Right.
Now you're growing where, hey, you know what, dude, this guy's good. He has good guests. He has good questions. You know, he has good content. Then it's a better growth because now you're going to have longevity.
Right.
Because the customers you develop, they're going to last.
Yeah, and they have loyalty. Yeah. You use the example of Howard Stern. I always use the example of Larry King.
Yeah.
Because Larry King had this 35-year
reign.
Reign, and it was never about him.
Right.
And it was always about the guest. And the guy who took over after him, when he retired from CNN, from the talk show, I don't remember his name, but he didn't last. Didn't last. It lasted a couple of years, and then the show got canceled.
I forgot who they gave it to, and he flopped.
And he made it more controversial. He made it more argumentative, and so on and so forth. And they asked Larry King afterwards, and he said the show was never about me. The show was about the person being interviewed, and this new host is making it about him, and that's not what people want to tune in for.
Right.
You know, and I always kind of had that in my head. And you're right. The first couple of people I interviewed, I spoke too much. I would ask a question and I would give my input. But once again, it's like people don't want to hear me. They want to hear, you know, the Jason Arntz, the Vinny Galantes, the whomever else I'm interviewing. And it actually becomes easier to get the guests to come on once I show them the interview.
Right.
You know, I have a lot of good interviews coming up. Today alone, when I got home from work, I interviewed Eric Olson. Eric Olson is a MMA fighter, kickboxer, bare knuckle, and underground street fighter.
No shit.
Yeah. And he actually had this underground street fight. He's from the States, but then he moved to the UK and he fights all over Eastern Europe and in the UK. And he recently had this underground street fight, no rules. The guy can't tap out. There's no rounds. You go till
done.
yeah. And he won the fight by gouging this guy's eyes out.
The old UFC days.
Yeah, yeah. And he had both thumbs in his. Yeah. And I said,
that's a fight of survival.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. And I said, did you actually pull his eyes out? He goes, no, I didn't, but I don't know how I didn't, because my thumbs felt the back of his skull, like the underneath. He goes, I was underneath his eyes. And I said, did he give up?
That's Israeli military training.
Yeah. And I was like, did he give up? He goes, no, the actual promoter who promoted the fight, he stopped it. Not the guy's corner, not the guy getting his eyes gouged out, but the actual promoter was like, and I was like, wow. But I just let him talk, and and I was like, this is an amazing interview. And I also got coming up, do you remember Vinny the Chin? They called him, his nickname was Vinny the Chin. His real name was Vinny Gigante. And he was the mob boss of the Genovese crime family. He headed the Genovese crime family. And do you remember in the 90s, he would walk around Greenwich Village and he would pretend that he was nuts. He would walk around in his bathrobe and his slippers, and he would have somebody walk with him, and he'd be mumbling to himself, trying to convince the feds that he was a psychopath, that he was nuts. He could never be, the head of this powerful crime family.
So they wouldn't touch him?
Well, it lasted a little bit, but then finally,
sooner or later.
it didn't work, and he wound up dying in prison. But I'll be interviewing his daughter.
No shit.
Yeah, Rita, and she's actually now a psychic medium. So I'm getting more and more, and then of course the John Elite and the Michael Dowds, now they're going to do my show. So the content is there. The content's coming. I just had Charles Griffin. I just got to have people watch it, and I could see my numbers go up every day slightly. Boom, 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 boom. But it's never like a rocket ship that just takes off.
Well, that's what we think, right? We think it's always going to happen that way. But the reality is the overnight success is never an overnight success.
Yeah.
You only see that when they finally blow up, but they don't realize the 10 years, the 5 years, the years you got to put into this, and it's even more than that. It's the grinding before you even start, when you get that idea, to even develop it and put it into something that you could broadcast and get out there, all the years and time that it takes to put that together, it's all relevant, but nothing good comes easy, and nothing that lasts grows overnight.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. All right. So I Prevail Subs, www.i-prevailsubs.com.
Yeah.
Use my discount code SNS10.
Yes.
You saw it in the commercial that will be before this episode. Like we said, great natural supplements. Fantastic for bodybuilding and putting muscle on. And then we got Muscle Beach coming up. When's that coming up?
July 30th.
Okay, July 30th. And where is it going to happen?
Tinton Falls, New Jersey, and Monmouth Regional High School. It's a national qualifier. So guys looking to get pro status or get to a national level to earn pro status. I had Shaniqua, Grant, Nick Walker, some great pros, all won my Muscle Beach competition. So this is a good stepping stone. And look, I've said this before, but I run this for the athletes, so you get judged fairly. There's no politic bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody advances in these shows with any, preconceived notion, or, the best guy wins. You're going to get judged fairly, but it's a good event. I have good people there. You've worked it for me, years ago.
Yeah. I competed in it too.
You competed in it also. Yeah. So, I pride myself on the reputation of the show and how athletes are happy. The spectators are happy. The vendors are happy. I have some great sponsors this year. We have some great activity going on in the hallways, so there's going to be something for everybody. My little daughter is going to be there selling their bracelets, so
that's right.
Bring extra singles. You can't turn these girls down.
Right.
But
and I will be there. I will be there, and I'll have a booth. I'll be selling T-shirts and shaker cups,
promoting the podcast.
That's right.
We're there to support it. Every step of the way.
And I'm trying to get some beautiful women to work the booth, so it becomes that.
Well, there'll be plenty there. We could actually maybe get some of the winners on the show. And we could put that out there. The winner, we interview them on the show and tell them their journey.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. Okay. Let's do that.
Their journey on what it took to compete. And these are all beginners, so you get them. That's what's great about this.
Yeah.
That's why I really like the amateur ranks. You see the development.
Yeah.
Of these athletes, and you see the psychology behind it. What got you to compete? What brought you here today? Mm-hmm. What's your long-term goals? And some of them pan out and some of them don't, but you could see the journey for these people. It's not so different than the journey that all of us go through every day. And sometimes we hold these people in higher regards or on a spectacle. I'm sorry, we hold them up on a pedestal because we think they're these elite, but they all go through the same struggles and the same mindset and the same downfalls that we do every day.
Yeah, it's going to be some show. It's going to be great, and it's every time I've worked it or competed in it, it was a fantastic outcome. So I'm looking forward to it. And I got to get a table and a banner and all that bullshit.
Yeah,
my wife is making the shirts. I got a whole bunch of shirts.
Oh, good. Well, I got tables there, so you don't need to bring a table.
Oh, okay, cool.
Just if you want to bring a banner or a backdrop or whatever you need,
all right, great.
We'll have tables there.
All right, sounds pretty good. All right, Jay, we'll definitely be in touch.
Yes, sir.
And when's the next show? The Indie Pro, right? Is that this weekend coming up?
I think it's this weekend or next weekend.
Yeah, the Indie Pro is the next one, and then right after that is the New York Pro. Are you going to the New York Pro? Because that's in Jersey too.
That's in Jersey, most likely.
Yeah, I'll be there too because I have a whole bunch of people in that show that I actually interviewed. That had who's going to be there? Teresa Ivansick, interviewed her. She's going to be there. She's going to be competing. Donna Salib, she's competing.
Oh.
I got Doug Fouché. He's competing. I interviewed him. The guy from what's his name? William Martins, the Brazilian bodybuilder. He just did he just did the Arnold Classic Brazil. He's going to be there. So it's going to be pretty entertaining, and I'm going to get some interviews and talk to some people and see if we could grab some big names for the show.
There you go.
All right, Big J. Thank you very much, man.
John, thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
You got it, man. Talk to you soon.